Pastor Monte, there's a question here about witnessing to an atheistic or agnostic type of an individual, and no matter what this Christian who's trying to witness says, that the comeback is always, well, you can't prove the Bible with the Bible. So he's asking, how can we correctly prove the Bible?
Okay, well, first of all, I had this experience a week and a half ago with one of my neighbors, a young lady. She's a PhD research scientist at Eli Lilly. She's very, very brilliant. She grew up in church, grew up in a Southern Baptist church, and she denies her faith. Today she denies her faith. And I asked her, "Are you born again?" She said, "No, I'm not." We had probably a 2-hour conversation. She said, "I'm an atheist." I said, "Well, you can't be an atheist. Number one, you cannot be an atheist. Why? It's illogical, because you say there is no God. You cannot prove a universal negative. Okay, so take atheist off the shelf." I said, "You're better to describe yourself as an agnostic." What is an agnostic? An agnostic, now listen to how I'm going to phrase this. An agnostic believes that you cannot know that there's a God. So they believe. What is belief? It involves faith. It involves faith. They believe, their faith teaches them that they cannot know that there is a God. That's what an agnostic does. I believe that there is a God. Both of us operate on faith. Well, she said, no, she said, I operate on science. I said, okay. I said, so all of your education, you were taught things from books. I said, you believe those things? Yes, she said, I'm educated. She said, I believe those things. But I said, you were not part of the person who wrote the book. If the book was talking about a scientific research study and the results, you were not participating in that study. You had to believe the person who wrote the book. You had to believe the person who conducted the study. I said, there is no difference between me and you. I said, I believe the Bible. You believe a book written by a human being. So one argument is this. Really, it is all of faith. The only difference is who and what you believe in. So, now having said that, will an agnostic, generally speaking, take arguments from the Bible? Probably not, unless they're open. And by the way, people like this are some of the most closed-minded people I've ever met. Okay, I'm happy to listen to hours of arguments and talk for hours. They don't want to hear my side of it. Okay, they're happy to hear their side. They're very closed-minded to it. But what do I do? There are tools out there that you can use. So your own testimony is probably the most powerful tool to tell someone what God has done in your life. They really can't argue against that. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to drop their knees and get saved, but you know what it means? It means that they're going to remember that, and they're going to think to themselves, wow, that God did change that person's life. God brought some neighbors into our lives, too long a story, but through a problem they had, the Lord opened a door for me to love my neighbor, and my neighbor came to Christ. His mother also came to Christ, and I'm telling you, the guy wanted nothing to do with it at the time, total disinterest, but I loved him. I told him my testimony. Those are very, very powerful things. Now, there are other tools you could give them. If they're a reader, you could give them a book. There's a good book by Dr. Kennedy. D. James Kennedy wrote a little book called Why I Believe. That's still a very good book. There are some things for someone who's willing to explore the possibility, but your testimony and loving that person is incredibly powerful, and God can use that in their life. You know, you're never going to win a religious argument, okay? You're just not. But I'll tell you what, you can win someone over by love, and you can tell them what Jesus did for you.
Yeah, amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
It makes all the difference in the world.
One little footnote to that I would suggest is that you remember Psalm 14:1 says that the fool has said in his heart there is no God, and that you then personally firm up why you believe in God. He's talking about your testimony, and I would suggest firming up your understanding of God's revelation from Psalm 19. General revelation the psalmist gives us there. Like somebody says that they don't believe in God, general revelation is God's creation. I mean, it just takes a second to look at this beautiful salt water out here, this Gulf water, and see a creator. Or just go look in the mirror and see the complexity of the human being. And then there's special revelation in the Word of God in Psalm 19 as well.